Beyond the famous coastline and wine valleys lies a Portugal shaped by volcanic islands, hidden minerals, and traditions few outsiders ever hear about. Here are 50 geography facts you never knew about Portugal. Fact 50. Portugal sits on some of Europe's largest lithium reserves. Beneath the hills of northern Portugal lie some of the largest known lithium deposits in Europe, a mineral essential to electric car batteries. Regions once known only for farming have suddenly become strategically important to the global energy transition, turning quiet countryside into contested mining ground. Fact 49. Portugal's alheira sausage was invented to survive the Inquisition. During the Inquisition, Portuguese Jews forced to hide their faith created the alheira, a sausage made from poultry and bread rather than pork, hung in smokehouses to appear as though they ate pork like their Christian neighbors. A disguise born of persecution became one of Portugal's most beloved foods. Fact 48. Portugal's Montado landscape feeds the prized black Iberian pig. The Montado, a managed woodland of cork and holm oaks across southern Portugal, drops acorns that fatten free-roaming black Iberian pigs. This geography produces the acorn-fed pork behind Portugal's finest cured hams, a food tradition grown from a man-made forest. Fact 47. Portugal's tungsten mines made it vital in the Second World War. Portugal's Beira region held rich deposits of tungsten, a metal essential for hardening weapons, making neutral Portugal one of the most sought-after suppliers of the Second World War. Both the Allies and Axis competed fiercely to buy it, turning remote mountain mines into a center of global conflict. Fact 46. Portugal contains stone circles, older than Stonehenge. Near Evora stands the Almendres cromlech, a complex of standing stones erected roughly 2,000 years before Stonehenge, aligned with the sun and stars by people tracking the sky thousands of years before recorded history. Fact 45. Portugal bred a dog specifically to herd fish into nets. The Portuguese water dog was bred along the Algarve coast to dive into the sea, drive fish toward nets, and carry messages between boats. A breed shaped entirely by fishing geography, it nearly vanished when traditional fishing declined. Just a quick one. Would love if you hit subscribe. Now, back to the facts. Fact 44. Portugal's Rio de Aveiro is often called the Venice of Portugal. The Rio de Aveiro is a vast coastal lagoon threaded with canals, once vital for salt and seaweed, where colorful flat-bottom boats still navigate its channels today. Fact 43. Portugal's only national park sits in its remote north. Peneda Gerês is the only area in Portugal designated a national park, protecting a rugged landscape of granite peaks, wild ponies, and ancient villages whose isolation preserved traditions long after they faded elsewhere. Fact 42. Portugal's highest mountain is not on the mainland. The highest point in all of Portugal is not on the mainland, but on the Atlantic island of Pico in the Azores, where a volcano rises to 2,351 meters, far above the mainland's tallest peak. Fact 41. Portugal grows wine inside walls of volcanic stone. On Pico, vineyards grow inside thousands of small corrals built from black volcanic rock to shelter the vines from Atlantic wind and salt, a stone-walled landscape now recognized by UNESCO. Fact 40. Portugal cooks a traditional stew using volcanic heat. In the Azorean town of Furnace, locals bury pots of stew in volcanic soil and let geothermal heat slowly cook the food underground, a dish made possible entirely by the island's volcanic geology. Fact 39. Portugal's Berlengas Islands are a protected biosphere. The Berlengas archipelago off Peniche is a rugged granite island group so ecologically important it became a UNESCO biosphere reserve, home to rare seabirds in isolated Atlantic waters. Fact 38. Portugal preserves villages built entirely from schist. Across central Portugal, entire villages, known as aldeias do xisto, were built from local schist stone, blending so completely into the hills that they seem to grow from the rock itself. Fact 37. Portugal has one of Europe's largest marble-producing regions. The area around Estremoz, Borba, and Vila Viçosa forms a marble triangle that has supplied stone for palaces for centuries, ranking Portugal among the world's leading marble exporters for its size. Fact 36. Portugal's Guadiana Valley shelters the returning Iberian lynx. The remote Guadiana Valley became a key site for reintroducing the Iberian lynx, once the most endangered cat on Earth, its wild and thinly populated terrain giving the species room to recover. Fact 35. Portugal contains one of Europe's largest glacial valleys. The Zezere Valley in the Serra da Estrela was carved by an Ice Age glacier into one of the largest glacial valleys in continental Europe, its U-shape still visible today. Fact 34. Portugal aligns its clocks with Britain, not its neighbor. Despite sitting beside Spain, mainland Portugal keeps its clocks an hour behind, aligned with Britain instead, reflecting its Atlantic orientation and westward historical ties. Fact 33. Portugal's Sado estuary is home to resident dolphins. A resident population of bottlenose dolphins lives year-round in the Sado estuary near Setúbal, one of the few places in Europe where dolphins permanently inhabit an estuary beside a major port. Fact 32. Portugal built Roman fish salting factories on its coast. At Troia, near Setúbal, lie the remains of one of the largest Roman fish salting complexes ever found, where fish was processed into a prized sauce shipped across the Roman Empire. Fact 31. Portugal's Ria Formosa shelters behind shifting barrier islands. The Ria Formosa lagoon in the Algarve is protected by a chain of sandy barrier islands that constantly shift with tides and storms, creating a rich wetland for fishing, salt, and wildlife. Fact 30. Portugal harvests salt by hand in ancient coastal pans. In places like Castro Marim and Tavira, salt is still harvested by hand from shallow evaporation pans using methods unchanged since medieval times, producing sea salt prized by chefs worldwide. Fact 29. Portugal's almond blossoms inspired a famous legend. The Algarve's early spring almond blossom, blanketing hillsides in white, inspired a legend of a northern princess who pined for snow, for whom the trees were planted to mimic it. Fact 28. Portugal grows carob trees across its dry southern hills. The Algarve's warm, dry climate makes it ideal for carob trees, whose pods were historically a vital food and are now used as a chocolate substitute. Fact 27. Portugal's Benagil Cave is a cathedral, carved by the sea. Along the Algarve coast, the Benagil Sea Cave was hollowed from limestone cliffs by Atlantic waves into a domed chamber with an opening to the sky, reachable only from the water. Fact 26. Portugal's Ria Formosa hosts one of Europe's largest seahorse populations. The sheltered waters of the Ria Formosa lagoon support one of the densest seahorse populations in Europe, a fragile community dependent on the lagoon's protected geography. Fact 25. Portugal's Serra da Arrábida meets the sea in dramatic cliffs. South of Lisbon, the Serra da Arrábida drops sharply into the Atlantic in a protected landscape of limestone cliffs and hidden coves where mountain and sea meet abruptly. Fact 24. Portugal preserves Roman ruins at Coimbriga. Coimbriga is one of the best preserved Roman settlements in the Iberian Peninsula, its mosaics and walls revealing how thoroughly Rome shaped central Portugal. Fact 23. Portugal's interior contains a village built among giant boulders. The village of Monsanto was built directly among and beneath enormous granite boulders, its houses squeezed between and under rocks weighing many tons. Fact 22. Portugal's sun makes it one of Europe's best for solar power. Portugal receives some of the highest annual sunshine in Europe an advantage it has harnessed to become a leader in solar and renewable energy. Fact 21. Portugal's Guadiana River plunges over a hidden waterfall. Along the Guadiana, the Pulo do Lobo forces the river through a narrow rocky gorge, the largest waterfall in southern Portugal, hidden in a remote landscape. Fact 20. Portugal fortified an entire border town against Spain. The town of Elvas, near the Spanish border, is ringed by one of the largest star-shaped fortification systems in the world, built to defend Portugal's frontier and recognized by UNESCO. Fact 19. Portugal's storks have stopped migrating in large numbers. Many of Portugal's white storks, which once flew to Africa each winter, now remain year-round, drawn by a milder climate and reliable food, changing a centuries-old migration. Fact 18. Portugal's Madeira grows a prehistoric laurel forest. Madeira preserves the Laura silva, an ancient laurel forest that once covered much of southern Europe millions of years ago, surviving on the island's misty slopes as a living relic. Fact 17. Portugal's Madeira wine is aged by deliberately heating it. Madeira wine gained its flavor when barrels shipped across hot tropical seas improved with heat, leading producers to deliberately warm the wine ever since. Fact 16. Portugal's Azores sit atop underwater volcanic giants. The Azores are the exposed peaks of enormous volcanoes rising from the Atlantic seabed, each merely the summit of a mountain far larger beneath the waves. Fact 15. Portugal's Furnace Valley bubbles with hot springs. The Furnace Valley in the Azores is dotted with steaming fumaroles, boiling springs, and mineral pools that residents use for bathing, cooking, and heating. Fact 14. Portugal's Sete Cidades holds twin lakes of different colors. On São Miguel in the Azores, the twin crater lakes of Sete Cidades appear one green and one blue, born from a collapsed volcanic caldera. Fact 13. Portugal watched an island grow during a 1957 eruption. The Capelinhos eruption off the Azorean island of Faial in 1957 created new land from the sea over more than a year, burying a lighthouse and expanding the island. Fact 12. Portugal's Serra da Estrela is the only place. It reliably snows. The Serra da Estrela is the one region of mainland Portugal with dependable winter snow, home to the country's only mainland ski area. Fact 11. Portugal keeps one of the world's oldest bookshops. The Livraria Bertrand in Lisbon has operated continuously since 1732, recognized as the oldest bookshop in the world still in business. Fact 10. Portugal's coastline draws some of Europe's richest marine life. The upwelling of cold, nutrient-rich water along Portugal's Atlantic coast supports abundant fish stocks, drawing whales, dolphins, and seabird colonies close to shore. Fact 9. Portugal cans sardines as a point of national pride. Portugal turned its abundant Atlantic sardine catch into a globally recognized canning industry, its beautifully packaged tins becoming a culinary staple and a national symbol. Fact 8. Portugal grills sardines across its streets every summer. Each June, the festivals of Lisbon fill the streets with the smoke of grilled sardines, a tradition rooted in the seasonal abundance of fish off Portugal's coast. Fact 7. Portugal's Alentejo Plains bake under intense summer heat. The vast plains of the Alentejo endure some of the highest summer temperatures in Portugal, a hot, dry climate that shaped a slow rural life and a hearty cuisine. Fact 6. Portugal protects dark skies over its empty interior. The sparsely populated interior around Algarve became one of the world's first certified dark sky reserves, its lack of light pollution drawing stargazing tourism. Fact 5. Portugal's Azores generate the weather system that shapes Europe. The Azores are home to the Azores High, a semi-permanent zone of high pressure that steers weather across much of Western Europe, meaning a group of small Atlantic islands shapes the skies of an entire continent. Fact 4. Portugal controls one of the largest maritime zones in Europe. Because of its scattered Atlantic islands, Portugal commands one of the largest exclusive economic zones in Europe, a vast expanse of ocean far exceeding its modest land area. Fact 3. Portugal's Madeira built an airport on pillars over the sea. Lacking flat land, Madeira extended its airport runway on a platform supported by more than 100 tall columns over the ocean, an answer to the island's steep volcanic terrain. Fact 2. Portugal's islands were volcanic laboratories for new life. The remote volcanic islands of the Azores and Madeira, rising untouched from the ocean, became natural laboratories where isolated species evolved into plants and creatures found nowhere else on Earth. Fact 1. Portugal turned its edges into its greatest strength. From lithium beneath its hills to volcanoes rising from the Atlantic, from Roman salt factories to islands that steer Europe's weather, so much of what makes Portugal remarkable lies at its edges rather than its center. Long before it looked outward across the ocean, Portugal was shaped by the seams where land, sea, and fire meet. Hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Portugal's extraordinary geography. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for a whole lot more.